Welcome to another episode of the Self Storage Insights podcast. I'm Ben Shirey, and today I'm joined by Kayla and Ryan from Store It Up Mini Storage in Karnes City, Pennsylvania. Kayla and Ryan just finished building their first facility, and so this is an episode we were going to do directed towards people getting into the industry, starting with building their own facility, something I've wanted to talk to some people about for a long time. When I was looking to get into self-storage myself, this was something I was interested in, was building a new facility. And so I'm really excited to hear Ryan and Kayla. I'm really excited to hear your insights on how this whole process went for you and kind of what made you want to get into this industry. And so if you don't mind, if you can just give me a little bit of a background on yourselves, how did you decide to end up in self-storage?
Sure. So Ryan and we actually were in the residential rental business we've been in it for about 7 years now. Okay. And wanted to, we looked at some other opportunities, looking to extend our portfolio, and we kind of stumbled upon storage units, and we started, talking and kind of cultivating those relationships with other people that are in the business. And we decided it was something that, kind of interest us, and that would kind of go great hand in hand with our rental business, the residential side of it. So that's kind of how we got started. And, obviously we're a new build, and we started the process in like April, mid-April. And we finished the process the end of June. Our doors were open effective like July 1st of this year, 2023. So about like a 2.5 month period of time from start.
So went pretty quick. That's not too bad. Yeah, as far as a turnaround from start to finish, that's awesome. As you were getting ready to get started in the industry, buy versus build, is that something that you guys talked about? Were you shopping around for existing units versus building your own units, or how did that look?
Yeah, so we when we first thought about it, we had already secured the property that we have our units on, our storage facility on, and it was kind of the property that we obtained. We did it about 4 years ago. It was kind of in the 5-year plan. So we decided that we weren't sure the intentions at first. We thought about doing some other residential properties, and then this came about. So we decided to utilize that property for our storage facility. And just kind of took off and went with it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and then you said about March or April to June for the turnaround time. As far as the planning part of it, when with the whole, if I can speak to maybe the permit processing and the zoning permits and all of that sort of thing, or maybe Ryan wants to speak to that, I'm not sure. But how long was that part of the process before you actually started the build?
Ben, that's one of those things. Yeah, in our borough here, there's really no issues as far as setbacks, anything like that. The borough, they were super easy to work with. So that process, it went seamless. I mean, there was no issues whatsoever. And as far as I do have a construction background, so I was aware of, the building codes and things like that needed to be followed.
Yeah, because I know that is one of the things that comes up a lot when I discuss, building a new facility with some people, is just depending on the locality that you're in, it can vary so much as far as trying to attain the permits that you need to open a facility. I know I was reading somewhere that up in New York now, there's almost a 2-year wait time for zoning permits to go through for storage facilities, because so many up there were, it's been such a growing popular demand. So I was just, that's very interesting to hear that it went that well.
Yeah, there's no zoning basically at all in Karnes City Borough. So like I said, it went seamless. There was no issues whatsoever.
Awesome. And then, so you said you have some construction background. Did you do most of the build yourself, or did you subcontract it, or did you hire a general contractor, or what did that look like?
The only thing that I did not do was the excavating. I had a guy come in, do the excavating and put stone down, and I did a retaining wall. I poured the concrete. I did everything else. Me and my dad and my father-in-law.
Okay, nice. So kept it mostly in house there. That's awesome.
Yep.
if I can speak to the construction part of it, as far as the construction process, what was kind of the biggest pain point maybe that you ran into that you didn't foresee being a problem? With having a construction background, obviously that helps a lot, but was there something that stood out to you that was kind of the biggest hurdle you had to overcome as you were building the facility?
You know, I was having trouble thinking of something there because it really went together pretty well. You know, the building was engineered well. You know, when we first started and looked at the instructions were, they were a little sketchy. And, you know, we had all these piles delivered that morning, and we're just looking at it, you know, trying to decipher
Right.
what goes where, you know. So after we laid everything out, you know, we spent about a half a day reading the instructions, you know, but that really kind of enlightened us a little bit better of an idea how to put it together. So
Right.
I guess that's how we would start out next build. You know, I would definitely go straight for laying all the pieces out on the concrete and go from there.
Right. So you had bought like a pre-manufactured or prefabricated kit?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And as far as that, what was the time frame on that, as far as once the concrete was poured or however you did that till you put the whole kit together? Did that take was that a long part of the process or not really?
Putting the kit together, you know, I just took a couple of days of vacation here and there and kind of worked in the evenings and weekends. You know, we had after we had the concrete poured, we had I think we figured about 6 full days getting the building together.
Wow, that's awesome.
It wasn't bad.
And the building that you're specifically talking about, I believe is it 20 units?
It's 16.
16 units. Okay, I couldn't remember the exact number on it. So okay, awesome. Yeah, that I mean that doesn't seem like a whole lot of time. Yeah, as far as invested in putting the shell of the building up, then that went really well for you. It seems like so.
Yeah.
What I kind of like to discuss next, if we can, a little bit is kind of maybe behind the whole storage facility is do you have like a marketing strategy now that the building's up? What were you planning on doing to fill the units? Did you have a specific plan in place or not really yet?
Yeah. So, but quite honestly, we live in a very rural area, and we are road frontage. We're near a few businesses. So, you know, we do have some social media appearance, you know, with you know, Facebook, and we're starting actually an Instagram account. In addition to that, you know, obviously, as we all know, word of mouth is like one of the best types of advertising you can have. So really spreading in a small community like helps greatly. So we've been just kind of, units have been essentially selling themselves because they're just right there, road frontage. We got a great location for it. And it seems as of right now, you know, as of July 1st, we're getting at least 1 hit a day. So hopefully we could have those pretty well filled pretty quickly.
Right. Now, you had said you had this property for a few years. When you originally purchased the property, was this your intention, or is it kind of just the way that it fell?
Yeah.
No, we were going to do something with it. We just weren't exactly sure that it was going to be storage. We also have some duplex residential rentals that Kayla mentioned. You know, I tossed around possibly building 1 or 2 of those on that piece of property.
Right.
So, and this just come, you know.
Yeah. So you spoke to that you have a property that you rent as well as the storage facilities now. What kind of made you go away from the rental properties, homes and things like that, the duplexes, and go to the storage as far as just from a management perspective?
Well, in my opinion, we still have the duplexes, but you know, just I have a guy that has some locally down the road here, you know, a lot of discussion with him and a couple other people over the last year or so, you know, just made us really look into what the need is for storage in the area. So, you know, we kind of got to checking into it, and just the rest is history.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I would just add to that, like, you know, and talking with, you know, the competitors locally, like everybody in this area is filled. And simply just talking to customers coming in saying like, we can't find a unit. So obviously the need is there. And I feel like it's definitely, it's a sustainable market. And I feel like it's only going to increase as the years go on.
Right. And maybe that's a great segue into the next question I was going to ask, was kind of where do you see the self-storage industry going now that you've been researching it more and you've got started in the industry? Where do you feel like maybe, you know, in the next 10 years, the industry is going to head?
I honestly, I see it like growing. I mean, I know it's booming right now, but I see that like extending beyond this initial boom. I feel that one of the things that I see, you know, in the market and, you know, as the economy, it's pretty volatile to those type of things. And it seems that the need is always going to be there for storage, whether they're moving, relocating, downsizing. You know, we've had one customer, you know, a college student, and she needs a place to store those things. So you got to think, I mean, I guess a little bit outside of the box. It's made me think outside of the box of, you know, it's not necessarily a cookie cutter, like everybody's needs are different.
Right. So one question I was going to ask too was, as you were planning the build and doing your research, maybe, was what made you decide to go with the size of the units that you went with, as far as, you know, 5x10s versus 10x20s? Was it mainly based on the research you did for just your area, or is that something that you didn't have to put a whole lot of thought into?
I guess, and Ryan can elaborate a little bit more, but I guess for me, it was just talking with those competitors and kind of filling out like, you know, what they're seeing, the trends and, you know, the market of like the different size units. As far as the sizing goes, you know, our property that we have it on, I wish it was larger, but we only have so much space. But, you know, and obviously being new to the market, we wanted to kind of test the waters out and start small, and then we can always build and expand that. But that's kind of how we decided upon, you know, the 16 units and the sizing of those units.
Okay. Yeah. One thing that I always think is interesting, and I have a construction background as well. I was a general contractor, and I did a bunch of additions and remodels, and I've done some new home construction and things like that. And so the one thing that always gets me is after somebody builds a home, they always come back and they say, well, if I would do it again, here's the couple things I would do different, right? Nobody gets it right on their first one. Is this something you plan on doing again? And if so, what is something that you would do differently with the next building, or if anything?
I would say yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Kayla.
No, I guess my only thing was, I mean, like Ryan was obviously more involved in the building process. He that was his gig. Me, I wish we would have done a little bit bigger, but who knows going in. But you know, we're definitely looking at expanding, and we have enough space to do a unit in similar size to our current one. And then, you know, looking at, if things go well, broadening out and looking for additional property and doing the same.
Okay. Ryan, do you have anything to add to that as far as the building process?
No, you know, I agree. I just exactly pretty much what Kayla said. You know, I kind of kicked myself a little bit too. Wish would have went a little bit bigger to start with. But, you know, it is what it is at this point. So yeah. I actually reached out this morning to get a price on a second building here. We're thinking about possibly maybe sometime this fall starting another one. So okay. We'll see how that goes.
Awesome. Yeah, so pretty interested in starting another one pretty quickly then. That's good.
Yeah,
good
I mean, we got 10 out of 16 units filled already, and we only been open for 11, 12 days. So
right. Yeah, that's impressive. That's awesome. Since I have you both on, maybe a question, and again, I didn't send this one over to you, but just something I thought might be interesting was who got to pick the name for the company, or how did you decide what you were going to choose?
It's funny you asked that. We never knew how nerve-wracking it was until you have to choose a business name, and trying to figure out like what's something that's cliche, that's something that's going to you know, kind of stick in people's minds. And we did a lot of back and forth, a lot of, you know, writing on paper, but honestly, I think just in conversation, we were talking one evening, like after dinner, and Ryan's like, store it up. And I was like, okay, let's go with it. So,
okay.
We just kind of put a lot of time into it. And, in the logo part, like he said that, and I said, okay, how about the arrow? And, we kind of went with it. So, he's definitely like, he's more of the construction background and the idea bringing, and I'm kind of like more of the marketing and the computer and the back end, the customer savvy person. So I think both of those like together, like we really
like well together. Yeah. Good deal. Yep. I just thought I'd ask. I thought maybe it was an interesting conversation. So I guess in closing, maybe the last question that I'll ask you would be, if I was new to the industry or looking to get into the industry and I had some property that I was going to build on, what would be maybe one piece of advice you'd give me as I get started out, just for somebody maybe interested in getting into the industry?
Honestly, like, and we talked about this, and I think that we both agree that the fact that like, gain as much knowledge as you possibly can from, people in the market. If you don't know, start looking at resources, start looking at, at podcasts, at YouTube videos, at, that I think that gained, in that livable experience is like, without a doubt, it's valuable in every shape. And I feel like we've really taken the advice of, we have a friend of a friend that has these storage units, and we started talking with him and starting having those conversations. And that's really to kind of what pushed us to go this direction. And we've learned a lot from him, by just talking to him. And, I think that information is invaluable. So.
Right, for sure. And the one thing I do find interesting about the self-storage industry as a whole is, so I'm a member of the Pennsylvania State or Self-Storage Association. And so if you go to any of those shows like that, it seems like all of the self-storage owners and property managers and things like that are very open to talking to you about, this kind of thing and giving advice. It's not as much like a cutthroat industry where they want their competitors to fail. It seems like a lot of them are very open to sharing knowledge and stuff that they've learned throughout their time in the industry. So yeah, that's great advice as far as reaching out even to other storage owners and things like that to see how they did things. So.
And I think, as we use the approach, anybody can invest money into something, but if you don't have a system that works and a great business plan to go along with it, and, like Ryan, like I said, like we make a good team because he brings that, specific insight with a construction background and kind of the know-how for that. And, and I kind of bring my part to the plate. So I feel like you just need a good plan and a good system, not just something to throw at it.
Right. And a good partner, it sounds like. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, in wrapping it up then, is there anything that you'd like to add maybe that we didn't discuss, or anything that you thought of throughout the process that you think might be helpful to the listeners or anything like that?
I guess like my biggest piece of advice, if you're thinking about doing it, it's one of those things, if you don't take the plunge and do it, you never know. So if it's something that like you really want to do, and go for it, just get as much background as you can, and learn as much as you can. But definitely go for it.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys very much for your time today. I appreciated talking to you a little bit here, and I'm sure I'll talk to you again in the future. And just really wanted to say thank you. Store It Up, Karnes City, up north of Pittsburgh. Make sure you check them out if you're in the area. And thank you guys so much for your time today. And look forward to talking to you again. This podcast episode was brought to you by CC Storage. CC Storage is a property management software that helps you pass the fees of credit card processing onto your customers so you don't pay credit card processing fees ever again. If you enjoyed the podcast, there's a link below where you can fill out a form and be interviewed on the podcast with myself. If that interests you, please click the link below and we'll be in touch. We hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Don't forget to check back next week for another interview with another self-storage property owner.